Wow, that was incredible, right? So welcome to this day 4 of the Albuquerque Film and Music Experience, and to this very exciting panel of the producer's evolving role and building the New Mexico indie scene. Very exciting, right? Thanks for everyone for being here. There's a lot of great energy in the room. And they said it there, do make sure that you silence your devices in any way you can. And without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our moderator, Brent Morris. Brent Morris is an Albuquerque-based film and television producer and unit production manager with a career spanning decades. Born in Los Angeles, he began in theater before transitioning to film. In film, where he worked as a producer's assistant before line producing features like Magic in the Mirror and Sundance Audience Award winner Smoke Signals. I loved that movie. Since joining the DGA in 1998, his notable unit production manager credits include The Lost Bus, Finch, and Lemonade Mouth. He has also produced a long list of acclaimed films, including Patty Jenkins' Oscar-winning Monster and Rod Zomba's The Devil Rejects. In addition to his film work, he produces content for Meow Wolf's immersive art installations. Who's been to Meow Wolf? Awesome. After relocating to New Mexico in 2006, Morris formed Indie Production, through which he co-directed the feature documentaries Flamenco School and Made in New Mexico. A strong advocate for film education, he serves on the advisory board of the Albuquerque Film and Media Experience and has taught production techniques internationally. He is also developing a supernatural thriller titled 5, which he plans to direct. So without further ado, here's Brent.
Thank you so much, and to all of you for coming out on a rainy Saturday morning. Very exciting to be here. I've never moderated a panel before, so it's kind of exciting and new. And I know all of these people in various ways, but we can go through that in a second. I just wanted to say a couple things. To steal a line from one of the greatest, the movie business, it's always the best of times and the worst of times. And right now, who knows which one of those times we're in? Maybe we're in the middle somewhere. I will say, in all times, to produce is to get something done, right? To give birth, to have an element of faith about what you're doing, and to persist. And despite all of the problems and complaints, there's a joy to it. We're stressed out, but we are proud of our work in the end. And for me personally, the cycle of filmmaking is so rewarding because you have a spark, an initial idea, which turns into a period of gathering resources and putting a team together and building the energy to the point where you're actually making the project. And that's a reward into itself. And then you have a kind of winding down period. And then 6 months later or a year later, there's the baby that's there and it's out into the world and you've created that thing. So that's the most, I think, rewarding. No matter what kind of project you're working on, you have something that you hopefully are proud of in the end. And then, you know, there's something to share. And that's what we're going to talk about here this morning with these esteemed panelists that I will, I'll give you a brief entree into them, but basically let them talk for themselves. So Todd Spradlin, I've known him for a couple years now. Todd's a producer of many reality projects, correct? And also a location manager.
That's correct, yeah.
Tell the folks a little about your work.
So I spent 15 years in reality TV producing in LA. I've traveled around the world, and reality TV was never the goal. And in LA, with all the people that I knew there, I couldn't get a job as a PA on anything. And so I talked to my wife and It's like there's opportunity in Albuquerque or New Mexico. It seems like a good film place to go for it. And I've only been here 3.5 years. And yeah, it's just, everything's happening so fast. I think it feels crazy to be on this panel. Like I emailed Brent and was like, hey, just moved here. And then Brent has been such a mentor to my journey here.
Oh, thank
and
you,
then I
Todd.
connected with these folks, and I don't know, man. I'm just happy to be here. Still figuring it out, but I'm not in reality TV, and I get to work with incredible people, and I'm creating my film family, and I love everybody I work with.
Awesome. And this is, thank you, Todd. This is Kelsey Landon. I only know Kelsey from, we just cast her in the Meow Wolf project. Hush, hush. But
You don't know that.
She's going to be on our stage like in 2 days or 4 days, I think.
Yeah. That's how I got started. I was an
totally.
actor for a long time. I worked on Broadway, off-Broadway. I got to do a play at Lincoln Center, which was a huge deal. And then I worked at the New Victory on 42nd Street for 3.5 years. And then someone asked me to produce on an immersive show that I was in. And if you were here on Thursday, you heard my dental story. I went to a dental convention to raise money for that project, and we made it. And it kind of started me the bug of you can be so much more if you really love a story. You can really guide it to the finish line, and that's what I love about producing. You create something, and it's parenthood. In a weird way, you watch it grow and become something you'd never imagined, and then you send it off to college.
Absolutely. And hopefully they graduate, right? Keagan Karnes, I don't know, you guys must know him. He, local hero from Las Cruces, right? Keagan and I worked together on a couple things, but Little Brother was a indie movie that came out 2 years ago. It's doing really well. It's going to go to Europe. So tell the folks about yourself.
Yeah, first I just want to say, like, we're so lucky to have someone like Brent in the community who can go from really huge shows to really small ones and kind of seamlessly help people like us get our films made. So thank you, Brent. I'm really glad you're moderating. Yeah, I come from Las Cruces, New Mexico. Go Aggies. We're great. Mark Vasconcelos in the audience. Albuquerque's okay. I'm just kidding. I've lived here for about 12 years now. I moved up here after college at New Mexico State and just started making things, small commercials, music videos, anything someone would give me a few $100 to make. And that slowly led into producing larger projects. So I line produced a film that was supposed to be like a $1 million budget, non-union, easy, that ballooned into a multi-million-dollar movie, completely union. I was 26 and had no idea what I was doing. So trial by fire there. But when I got out of doing that, when I finished that film, I kind of had the confidence to start making my own features. So we did Little Brother starring J.K. Simmons. Brent came and helped us out with that and is one of my producing partners on that film. And since I've done 3 features, a couple TV shows, and a whole lot of commercials to pay the bills.
Yeah. Thank you, Keagan. And last but not least, Melanie Kirk. Melanie is a local legend of a producer. So I have to just tell a little funny story. I was looking for a production coordinator like 15 years ago, and I asked around who could I interview, and I think Mar Jurgis, our friend, said, "Oh, you should meet Melanie." And so I met Mel. I think I had met you a little before that, but we had coffee at the Gold Street Cafe, and I started asking Melanie a few questions about this and that, and she seemed very young, and I'm like, do you think you're qualified to do this sort of thing? And she was like, oh, absolutely. She just told me everything that she knew how to do, and I was so impressed. But I'm like, who is this girl? And then that started our career together, and we did numerous projects. The last being the Really Loud House, which Melanie produced. So tell the folks about yourself.
Well, Brent already told them everything about me. My name is Melanie Kirk. I have been working in film for over 25 years, mostly in New Mexico, but I work in Los Angeles. I produced a show for Netflix in Portland. I've worked in Texas. I've worked in Oklahoma. I've worked in basically all of the Four Corners states. And And recently, or for the last many years, I've been mostly working in television. But I have also done a lot of work in independent film and filmmaking. I've done commercials, I've done documentaries, I've done reality TV. So often when I go in for these big shows, that experience helps me to make these big shows successful. And I've actually done a lot of work in large budget independent filmmaking, one of them being The Ridiculous Six, an Adam Sandler movie, which was one of Netflix's first feature films, and they had nothing in place. They didn't have their own insurance, they didn't have any sort of in-house help or support, and it was really like doing a very large independent film. And more recently, I've started working in independent television, which I think is a space, Kelsey probably knows a little bit about that, but that's coming up. It's never really been done before. It's almost always been studio projects for television. So it's an interesting space to be in.
Absolutely. So I want to ask the panelists. There's a lot of misconceptions about what a producer is, and there's so many. Sometimes you see 20 producers on an indie movie, maybe 50, and everyone goes, "Why are all those people producing?" So, would each one of you tell in your own brief way what you think a producer is, and also perhaps what are the qualities that a producer must have to succeed, and or maybe even the opportunities, but definitely there's a sort of a temperament of producing. And so who wants to go?
I have the mic, so I'll start. Part of why you see so many different producers, and especially in television, is that a lot of times writers or producing directors will get producer titles. So I do want to clarify that in television, when you see all the, co-executive producers and executive producers and co-producers, a lot of those are writers that are working as producers as well. And part of that is a WGA designation that they get paid as a writer, and then anything that they get paid above that is a producer fee. And that is part of why we see that so much. I know it's good to know. I think a lot of people are like, why does television have 40-something producers? But that is largely why, is that writers are often credited as producers. And that happens in feature films and other places as well. But when you get down to the indie films, a lot of times producer credits mean that people have given money in some kind of way. And you'll see producer credits like you might see in an associate producer credit. I did a film where somebody did some financing in the film, and their son got that credit, and he was on set with us, and he didn't do much. So there's a lot of different sort of versions of that credit. You also see PGA next to credits, and that's the Producers Guild. I'm a member of the Producers Guild. I don't know, I'm a member of the Producers Guild. They are very clear that actors that come on, or anybody who comes on in the form of a producer, does do producer work. So a lot of times you'll see actors with PGA next to their names in the credits. That means that they've actually done some kind of producer work in that film. So if you see that, they have really cracked down on, you just can't give producer credits to anybody. So,
Keagan, I know we had a number of producers on Little Brother, so that was a very much smaller budget than TV. So describe how that happened.
Yeah, so on Little Brother, we made the film for a little less than $1 million, and at that budget level, you need all the help you can get. So we had, I think, 7 credited producers, and each of them contributed something large enough that we felt a producer credit was appropriate, whether that be financing or coming on to essentially line produce for a cut rate, developing the script early on. And to Melanie's point, the PGA mark is something you want to look for, because after a film, it's a process of adjudication by the Producers Guild that then defines who the classic producer was. And by classic producer or producers, I mean they developed the script along with the director and writer. They found the financing. They physically produce, oftentimes, the film and then take it through distribution. So that's kind of, when you think producer, that's probably what you're what you'll think of. And I want to say really quickly, the quality I think a good producer has is they just cut through red tape. Like, that's kind of the job. When you see a wall and it's blocking you, you do whatever you can to tear it down. And if you have that type of personality, I think you can be really successful as a producer.
Cool. Absolutely. Tear down those walls, Keagan.
Tear them down.
So Kelsey,
breaking.
tell me about sort of the opportunities that got you to producing from your acting career. What led you to that?
Yeah, so it was a immersive theater, which was really, really fun. And I'm in a family of scientists and statisticians. So numbers are something that I'm really good at. And as a producer, it's come in really handy. I can blend the script analysis of the actor in my brain with knowing how much things cost and really go through a budget and be like, okay, if I have to keep it under a certain SAG rate, I think good producers know SAG rates, union tiers. If you don't make yourself familiar with them as a producer, they are everything. You have to keep your prices at a certain point, especially for low budget indie. And so I can kind of read the script and I can cull through the budget that I have. And the best part about being an actor is that you're pretty good with communicating with directors of being like, okay, so what does this particular scene mean to you? Because on paper, it's actually probably about $150,000 to shoot that. So tell me, what is the emotion behind that scene? What do we need? What does the audience need to get from the scene? Can we get it somewhere else? Can we get it for a smaller price point? What else can we do to tell the story you want to tell? So I think that's where the actor script analysis part of me really gets to come out as a producer, is I can blend those two skills together to create a good problem solving space.
Cool. Yeah. Todd, one of the things I realized early on producing, you have to multitask, but keep on track when there's so many problems and people needing things and all. How do you keep your head straight, especially with your background in reality TV? I imagine that's just a constant circus of problems.
I don't know. I think reality has nothing on film. All the sets I've been on are like total chaos. Murphy Law loves film set. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So I think the best thing that I do is I just try to slow the world down. I take deep breaths. I kind of look at the problem, and I prioritize, like, can I deal with this in 10 minutes, or do I have to do this right now? And just see what's most immediate right in front of you and handle it calmly. Don't get emotional about stuff. Because to me, a producer is someone that brings people together. And, like, I call it, making a movie is like going to war with somebody. Like, you get in the trenches, like, shit is crazy, and you want people on your team that have your back, and you have their back. Because if you guys can do that, it just makes for a great experience. And I think just kind of knowing the end goal is to get to that wrap day.
Absolutely.
And keeping everybody, keeping the wheels on the plane so you can land safely. And you don't want everyone jumping ship. You want it to be a good, smooth flight to the end. And so just breathe, take your time, go slow. This isn't rocket science. Anybody can do this.
Sometimes it is rocket science, though, damn it. Sometimes it is. Okay, I'm going to change the focus a little bit and say, this is open up to anybody who wants to answer this one, but how is independent film different than studio film or something else? What are the benefits of working independently or outside the system?
So I haven't produced at a large scale, but I've worked in locations on, I just did the last season of Stranger Things, and I did Eddington and some really big projects that had money. And I think the biggest difference is having money and having the ability to build your team out to a full capacity where people can work safely, they can work efficiently. Because in the indie filmmaking, we're all sweating and, like, working our tails off because
No, I get that, but what are the
what are
benefits
the
of
benefits?
it? Yeah, what we know the toil and the problems,
Okay.
but what's good about being independent? Let's put it that
what's
way.
good about it? Freedom. You don't have to deal with studio executives, or you don't have the pressure of millions of dollars. Like, you guys can make choices as a group and keep moving the project forward. At least that's what I see.
Yeah, I think it's because when you come up against that wall, you have to be creative to go around it, because you can't just throw money at it. You can't throw money at a demolition team to take down that wall. You have to work with your team and say, how do we get around this? And how do we do it together? How do we leave no man behind? I'm gonna pick you up by the foot and throw you over the top. Or we're gonna run as far to the side as we can. Or let's rent a hot air balloon. That sounds really fun. So I think, to me, it's the creative problem solving that builds a better team. That's my favorite thing about New Mexico Indie, is that there's incredible crew here. Incredible crew who work really well together, and it's because they've had to problem solve on the fly. It builds community.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's creative control. I mean, you can make a movie in an independent system that you probably would not be able to in a studio system. You know, other than A24 and Neon and a couple others who are really willing to take risks on content. You know, you see what's in the theaters. It's a lot of times film written and ultimately directed by a board of directors at a major conglomerate. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. Some great movies come out of that system, but having that creative control on set is really nice.
So my short answer to this question is the ability to say no. Lots of times when I'm working on something really big, there's no, so I need to do it and still be on budget and still be on time. But yeah, indie filmmaking, the creative solutions that we come up to the flat no is what's really, like, that's the magic. And those are some of the best experiences, are saying, no, we can't do this. Let's figure out how we can do something cool, greater. One of the things my favorite types of films to work on are comedies, but after that, it's horror, because horror films are really comedic when you're making them. Everything's over the top, everything's big, but also that's where I see the most creativity and the most space where people are doing really interesting new things that we've never seen before on dime store budgets all the time. So
No one says no as well as Melanie Kirk, folks. She always says it with a smile and in the best intent. But our job as producers sometimes is to have it. When you have a director, the director wants you to say yes. There's a way. So we're always scrambling to try to figure out how to serve that ultimate goal. But go ahead, Kelsey.
I would say we're really good at saying no, but so we provide an option at the other side of it. Sorry, that's all I wanted to say.
Good answer. I want we're gonna actually we have, like, I guess, an hour to do the talk and then a half hour of Q&A, and then we're supposed to clear the room for a half hour, or do we have a little more leeway than? Okay, just trying to keep on track. So what are the challenges you find working outside the system because you don't have studio support? What are the biggest hurdles besides, lack of money, which is obviously a huge one? We can talk about that, but there's other challenges too without the studio system.
Yeah, I think something that independent filmmakers should be aware of is that when you're in a studio system, you have an entire support staff at that studio helping you. You have a marketing staff. You have a marketing budget, which is probably really cool. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. So what I would really recommend independent producers do, because this is such a challenge, is think about your marketing up front. Try to raise some extra money to get your film out there, because you'll probably make a really great film if you have good taste and you know what you're doing. But getting it out to the public is very hard, and we're fighting constantly for people's attention. I mean, this is truly the attention economy. So now more than ever, I think it's important to really grab people and prepare for that on the front end.
don't forget to budget for post-production, because a friend of mine just worked on a film, and they had X amount of dollars, but they had $0 for post. So make sure that you think of your process, like, what is it going to take to do prep? How many days do we need to prep this thing? How many weeks? How many days of production do we have? And then what's our post schedule look like? And then if you're lucky enough to get through post, and then you get a luxury of thinking about marketing or festivals or whatever, like, don't forget about post.
I have a little side note. One of the early films I was a co-producer on was in the 90s, and it was before digital, and was a child actor who had written a really funny comedy called Performance Anxiety. Got everybody to work for like $100 a day, put it in the can, 35 millimeter, and just did not have the money to finish it. And it's never been out there. And it's a really funny, I don't know, I thought it was a funny film, but in those days you couldn't do it. Now you can get something finished for relatively much cheaper, but still that process of post and distribution and having money to take it at festivals. It costs what, $50 to enter your film in every festival. That's something that people don't really think about. Yeah. Melanie, and maybe you take this one first, but we're part of a greater ecosystem of media making. No one really exists in a vacuum, but I think there's some benefits to media makers and independent filmmakers from living in a place with a lot of different opportunities like that. So maybe describe how the greater ecosystem we have in New Mexico now with streaming and TV and other forms of content help independent projects.
Yeah, I want to go back to the last question really quickly. I just want to say, we've talked about post, but one of the biggest hurdles that I find people who are making independent films come up with first is insurance. It's very hard when you're making a short film or some other type of short project to be able to, especially now post-COVID, to be able to insure that project. And so, that's sadly a moving target. Every time I research it, it's a little bit different. So, that's one of the first things to think about, because you can't rent a camera. You can't get on a location without that. But New Mexico, I started in New Mexico. I started working as a PA when I was still in high school. Basically, as soon as I could drive, I was a PA. Even before I could drive, people would drop me off at set. I can remember getting picked up by the Ryder truck at, 5:30 a.m. to go empty out a house, to put everything into the empty Ryder truck, take all the stuff out of the truck so it was empty, put all the furniture in the house into the truck so we could hold it for the day, and dressing these sets for commercials. And so that's how I started. And then even through school, I did a lot of returns. I would spend my entire weekend going to every different store and all the malls and returning, the clothes or the things that we didn't use. So that's how I really started. And from that, I watched New Mexico grow from a place where we did a few feature films to doing many commercials, which we did throughout the 80s and 90s here. We did a bunch of live action video games here, which are really cool, called there's Mad Dog McCree and Space Pirates. You can still go online and play them. They're way cooler than you would think that they were. They're kind of like point and shoot games. And then as I left for college, really that's when the incentives took off and lots of feature films were happening here. There was a big John Carpenter film shooting here, and I very much thought about deferring college to go work as a PA on their set, and did not do that. So, and I went to college in Vancouver, Canada, so I went far away. I really wanted to get out of Albuquerque, and if you had thought 17-year-old Melanie never thought that she'd be living and working in Albuquerque in film in the way that I am able to, and across all these different platforms. But in those early days, everybody worked on commercials and features and television, and now it's more that people will work on features and television shows, but we love a commercial. everybody except for me. Being a producer on a commercial is actually very, very difficult. But if you're a grip or a locations person, you know, it's actually a really great experience because a lot of times it's a smaller microcosm.
Keagan, you do a lot of commercials too, and that have a company here in Spradlin that you guys might know that you guys do all sorts of media now. Tell us a little about how that evolved.
Yeah, well, initially when I moved up here, I was making commercials as a way to make ends meet. It was never a big goal of mine to get into the commercial space, but I met my business partner, Richard Farmer, just at the beginning of COVID, and he was a major commercial director, like Super Bowl ads. They're dropping a couple million a day, and they have everything they need. And he kind of saw this need in Albuquerque to have a commercial production company that repped multiple directors with different disciplines. Like, for example, one person may do food really well, or one person may do cars. So he asked me to start this company with him, and I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And it turned into something bigger than I ever could have imagined. So I think the commercials have been really great for us because I kind of see it as a way to be paid to practice our craft, and that just goes so far. I remember before Little Brother, I used to think of my career as kind of three-pronged, right? It was like making money, doing creative projects, and then also learning the craft. And when you can combine two of those, it saves you a shitload of time. And it helps you get better a lot faster. So I'm a big advocate for commercials. I'm actually, Half-Life does amazing work. I feel like I'm in the enemy's den right now.
No enemy. We're all friends here in New Mexico. Kelsey, how about you? How does your work in other mediums inform independent work?
It's great. So we're starting to see verticals really come into the space, and we did our first one in January of last year. And it was combining getting the reps in.
Hold on. If anybody's over 50 or 60 like me, what do you know what verticals are? Everybody does?
Oh.
Okay, let's describe.
Great, sure. So verticals, they are 1 to 3 minute episodes that you can watch on a mobile device. There's a company called Drama Box, Salty TV, The Real Shorts. They're really, really exploding right now. They're usually roughly like 45 to 60 pages. You have 7 days to shoot them and teeny tiny little budgets. So your job as a producer is to really gather a team together who can go out of the gate, but it's also great practice. It's great practice because you also have such a tight frame. You can actually do a lighter on your art department. It really comes down to the costuming and the casting because the frame is so small. You actually shoot for the vertical. You don't shoot anything in the wide. So that's kind of where we're finding a lot of overlap right now and building crews that can work fast and efficiently together.
Cool. How about you, Todd? I know you do work in locations, but also yesterday I gave you a budget because you were looking to do a Native American feature and wanted union fringes and all that. But your work obviously from documentary and reality informs that. And how do you translate that into more of an independent narrative style of filmmaking?
I don't. Maybe this isn't going to answer the question, but I don't know. I just have this. My mentality is, if I get a project, I just do whatever I have to do to keep it moving. I have fired my blood. Like I just love this stuff so much. Like I just get in that go mode and I just figure it out. Like, okay, I've never built a budget with a full union project. What does that look like? I don't fucking know. So Brent, can you help me and show me?
Of course. Well, no. In 10 minutes, I'm like, "What are you doing?" And here's.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously ways to do things with unions and non-union and everything in between.
Yeah.
And we all try to support unions here, and all producers would love to be able to afford to go fully union on everything, but practical terms, many of us don't have that kind of money to start out with, or even mid-career or late career like me. But yes,
Well,
unions are really important.
I would encourage UCLA has an online movie magic budgeting class that you can take. I would encourage everybody that wants to do film or television or commercials, like take that class. Learn how to, my goal as a producer is I want to know what every department does, and I want to be able to do everybody's job so I can be supportive for them. And then you get to understand what they need, how much things cost. So when you're building a budget, it just informs all of that.
That's awesome. You know, I can't tell you how many producers I've met that don't want to know anybody else's job. They just want to tell people what to do.
No, I want to know everybody's job. I'm not trying to take your job.
Great.
I just want to help.
Absolutely. No, it's really helpful. Let me ask you this, guys. So part of producing is obviously persuasion and negotiation techniques. That's a big part of the job. So do you have any tips for your own negotiation or persuasion techniques that get you in the door or complete a deal?
I think working in 15 years in reality TV, nobody ever cared about reality TV. They don't ask questions, but there's this people think about film and they're in awe of it, and it's like this magic fantasy land, and so they want to talk about it. And I find that in dealing in location work, just talking to people about the project, make them feel included in the project. I mean, people will open their everything to you, all their resources, everything they have. Just make them feel a part of it. Don't be like, hey, give me your house. Okay, thanks, F off. Like, make them feel part of the process, and then they will open up their world to you.
Yeah, along with that, because a lot of what I'm doing right now for Inspirato is building relationships for distribution. And so my job is to see what they see. What are people looking for? How do you connect? How do you fit in with the world that I have on just a level? And it may not be this time. It may be next time. I think the best advice anybody ever gave me was find what people are really good at and have them do that. You're going to set them up for success. And it means trial and error. And it means things will go wrong. And as a producer, you're on the hook for that. So you also have to have leadership qualities. You also have to guide people who you're putting in a higher position, who you're putting more expectations on, especially at the indie level. You have to give people power to be seen. You have to give people power to make a difference. And they might fail, so you also have to oversee. You have to give correction, gentle, kind correction. But nobody in this town gets better without a good mentor, without somebody like Brent who you could send a budget to. Because if we want New Mexico community, if we want New Mexico film to go farther, we have to go together. They say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I really believe that. And there is no competition. We're all trying to do the best work we can do. And if you take competition out of it and make it, I want us all to be better, I think we're going to have some really, really great things come out of this state in the next couple of years.
I thought that was a really good answer. It's hard to follow Kelsey. That's kind of the perfect question for her. One thing I will say that really will get people on your team is something my wife and I like to say all the time. It's just good life advice probably, but you want to kind of be a flight attendant. Like if you're in a plane and there's turbulence and you see a flight attendant super worried, you're going to freak out. But if you're a producer on set who can keep a calm head amidst the chaos, people are really going to rally behind that. And yeah, I just think you're an expert at that. You're very good at it. Yeah.
I agree. That was kind of the perfect answer. I mean, making films is a team sport, and you have to treat it as such, and we're all part of the team. And then also that we're a large group of individuals. I mean, that's really, I've said that for a long time, that you have to look and you have to see the individuals on the team and play to their strengths and hear them when they tell you something. You know, if a hair department person comes to you and tells you that they really need help in their department, you have to hear that. And you have, even if you don't have it budgeted, you have to see what the problem is and figure out how to solve it. And it's the same with anybody. It could be an actor who's having an issue. It could be, and there's so many different issues on set. I think COVID really kind of broke the box open on that. And it changed my job. This is a little off topic, but it changed my job really from just being the leader of a filmmaking team to being somebody that has to hear a lot of grievances and problems from people. It's a large part of my job is now being the on-set therapist. When I was working on Terminalist, they really wanted to put a nice couch like this in my office, and I kept telling them no, because I didn't want people to come and just sit on my couch and tell me all their problems. And I've had a lot of couches, and sometimes it's actors that I really like sitting on my couch and telling me their problems. Ethan Hawke used to love to come sit next to my desk and tell me all of his stuff, and he was great and fantastic. But a lot of times I'm like, oh God, I have so much work to do, and you're gonna sit here and tell me your problems. And then eventually another production that they were doing closed their offices, and they needed to put the couch somewhere, so they put it in my office, and immediately people were in my office telling me all their things. But so that's part of the job, is especially being a producer, is that you have to stop and you have to listen to people. And sometimes that's all it is listening, and sometimes you really have to find a solution to something that may be way out of the process of filmmaking. It could be something at home that they're going through. It could be something emotionally or physically that they're going through. And so you have to then listen to that, and sometimes you have to make really hard choices and let that person go, or figure out a way to have them take some time off. So, and those problems usually cost money. And so you have to prioritize that. That's part of your contingency, is the things that are part of the individual that are helping your team.
So one funny story. I'm just a bunch of funny stories. So when I was a budding line producer, I worked for this guy. He was an ex-fireman, and he line produced all these cheesy sex thrillers we did in the 90s. But he said, Brent, this is what I do. On the first day of photography, somebody comes up and asks me for something, I just say, no! And I throw a fit, and I scream, and then the rest of the show, nobody asks me for anything. And I'm like, that's pretty good advice, but anyway. There's different theories about how to do our jobs, and that's one of them. But he had a heart attack a couple of years later, and so the stress got to him. I don't recommend his style. Sometimes in producing, we make mistakes, and we learn from them usually. But tell me something, a cautionary tale. Like, what was a mistake that you made, but perhaps learned something to not do in the future, or inspired you to be better in the future? Does anyone want to take that one?
I was told I didn't have to answer this question.
I've never made a mistake, so I don't. No, in all seriousness, I make mistakes every day, and they cost. What's terrifying about a film is you're doing this for a long time, so your mistakes are amplified. Like on a commercial, it's a 2-day shoot. You make a mistake, okay, you spent some money on it, but when it's 20 or 30 days, and that mistake is costing you $1,000 a day, well, you're up to $30,000 by the end of it. So you really need to be careful about those. One big mistake I think I made that I never want to do again, this might be some practical advice, is don't shoot your first scene on your first day, because your crew is like getting to know each other, the cast is figuring out their characters, and you can feel that. So I recommend choosing a low-stakes scene from the middle of the movie to shoot on your first day.
I don't make mistakes. I've seen other people make mistakes that I've that I've learned from. But usually, like, there's a project in Texas that I worked on, and it was just total chaos every day because the producers weren't communicating with the locations department. Like, it's really important that your locations team, your assistant director team, and your producers are all on the same page, because if they're not, it's total chaos and it becomes a circus real fast. We were shooting this big parade scene in downtown Bastrop, and the locations guy misunderstood what the AD said and what the director said about how far the parade should go. So we're like, everybody's scrambling down the street to try to like move cars that we have no right to move, and that we're not permitted to move at all. And then you're just in this headspace of chaos, and you really want to stay away from that headspace and really communicate with your teams, and because things can unravel really fast. You're a Buddhist, right? No.
Well,
No.
I do have one. I've made so many mistakes. It's really tough to pick. But not learning. That's the biggest mistake you can make. Yeah. You're gonna fall on your face. Yeah, a lot. Yeah. You're gonna do a budget wrong. Just so everybody knows, SAG per diems go up in December, so we need to look at that. We just did a budget, and I was like, that's going up in December. If you do not learn, you will drown. You will drown. You'll never get better. And that's what you want. That is the end goal. And there have been a few times where I've brought people onto projects and I wasn't clear about their scope. So I think when you get a project up and running, there's a lot of people who are helping you out. You have a lot of producers. You have to be clear about people's scope and what part of the puzzle you need them for and what their assets are and how best they can help you. And it's happened a couple of times where I didn't do that question and it bites you. So I think that was the biggest lesson I learned, was to learn from my mistakes. Learn when it doesn't go right.
what is maybe Keagan, you want to take this? What's one piece of advice you would give an emerging filmmaker to inspire them to fight through all the challenges and not give up and keep going?
Yeah, that's
maybe more than one piece of advice, but
for sure. That's really a great question. I mean, it's kind of the standard cliche answer, but just keep creating. Really, I think everyone who's here probably was attracted to this line of work because we like just making things. And to me, it's no different than, doing crochet or leather work or drawing or something like that. Like, we enjoy, you're not a Buddhist, but we enjoy the meditation of creating something. So lean into that. Enjoy what you're doing. Try to put the result out of your mind. At any given moment, it really is about the present, being present, and I think that has done wonders for me to get through the really hard stuff, to get through the long days, to continue going to set even when you're tired. It's that I believe in the thing I'm creating, and the creation itself is the reward, not the result of the creation.
Melanie, you want to tackle that one?
I mean, I feel like film is a very unique experience in that very rarely can you do it all by yourself. You have to work with other people in order to do it. And so I think that that's one of the hardest things when you're starting out, is to be able to communicate what you want to other people and then be able to make that happen. And every time you do it, you get better. And so even if you try and it seems like it's not quite a success, like that's part of it, is opening yourself up and being vulnerable and being a lot of different things in order to be able to make your projects happen. So, that's what I tell a lot of people is, it's the perseverance, but it's also recognizing that you need a team to help you do this. I'm not saying it's not possible on your own. There's some really great filmmakers that work mostly on their own, but in almost every level, you've needed other people to develop your film or to answer a question or to help make a budget or help ingest it into your editing system or help distribute it. So, you can't be an individual in the filmmaking world.
Absolutely. I'm going to do what I think a speed round, let's call it, because each of these questions could potentially be an hour, and we don't have that kind of time. And in the Q&A, if you guys want to pose more specific questions, but this is more for like indie filmmaking and coming up with it yourself. What attracts you to a project? In quickly.
Oh, I'm going first?
Yes.
No, for me, it's the need of my skills. You know, usually when somebody comes to me in any sort of project, they want a budget done first off. Jonathan, who's sitting in the audience, I recently went with him about a short film, and so it's talking about the project that somebody wants to make, and then what they need from me, and so that's brings me into the project, and so my skills are one of the first that are ever asked for on a film. It's usually like me and the location manager are sort of the first people on, usually me. And so it's part of being needed in that sort of way that is really great and part of indie filmmaking and what really attracts me to a project. And sometimes I get on projects or I get the script and I'm like, oh, this isn't for me, and I become more picky about that as I've gotten a little bit older and have a little bit more experiences that I know when a project isn't right for me or right during that time, and I'm better at choosing that. But I think when you first start out, you just say yes to everything. Even if you don't know how to do it. I said yes to a lot of budgets that I didn't know how to make, and then I used the tips and tricks tool and the budget making software to try and learn how to do it. And I made a lot of mistakes, but yeah, and now I don't make a lot of those mistakes. So.
Yeah. For me, it's got to be a combination of things. First and foremost, it's like, do I believe in the story we're telling? That's huge. That's kind of fundamental. Do I believe in the people who are telling the story? Or like, I think producers, we all kind of probably got into this because we like helping, we like contributing to something. And so if I really believe in the vision of the folks I'd be working with and feel like I can contribute, like to your point, do they need my skill set? That really attracts me. And the third thing is like, are they going to pay me a lot of money? And actually, I could do away with the first two if there's enough money. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's people. Do I like the person I'm working with? They could send me a script that's kind of half-baked, and I will spend the next year with them being like, what about this? What about that? Like, if I like you and I see that you have a passion for something, I'm going to fight for you. If you've ever taken those, like, personality quizzes, I'm a campaigner. It's totally right for a producer. But, like, I will go to bat for people all the time. I love people. I think everybody has a story. I think everybody deserves to have their story heard. If I feel like I can spend the next 5 years of my life with you, we're going to make a movie.
For me is, do you have money in the bank? Because if you don't have money in the bank, like, is it a dream? And do I need to be a dreamer with you? Or is this like, the account is full and we are healthy and we are going? Because I don't have a lot of time to help people, like, create their dreams. I'm sorry, I don't. But I have time. If you have the money in the bank and you're ready to go, let's do it. Like, let's go make a movie. I don't. Right now, I'm doing a lot of horror movies. I don't say I love horror movies, but I'm in that yes to everything right now. So let's go make a movie.
Okay, I'm going to be the devil's advocate because 99% of the indie filmmakers here have no money, and. That's
what I was going to say, is that I often come on before there's any money. I work in films all the time that have no money yet, and I will charge them a nominal amount of money to make their budgets and schedules.
How do you find the money is that what everybody wants to know. Like and this could be a whole topic unto itself, but for independent filmmakers, it's kind of square one. Where do you find the money right now for independent films? Anyone?
That's not me. I'm the producer that spends the money, so I don't know where to get it.
Yeah. I'm going to pass to Kelsey because she's fucking great at it. But it is what we've done in the past has been a combination of private equity, so getting people to buy into the film with the hopes that they will see a return on their investment, and then like a superpower we have in New Mexico to get you from 80% to 100% funded is getting a loan against the tax credit at the most competitive interest rate you can. That's been absolutely key, and as you're seeing like less people are doing negative pickups or minimum guarantees these days, that used to be a major source of funding for folks. So basically, Lionsgate will say, if you finish the movie, I'll give you $1 million for it, and then you go take that to a bank and try to get a loan against that. That's more and more rare these days. So look for people in your orbit who believe in the film you're making, ask them for the first parts of the money, and then go and get a loan against the tax credit. It's been a really successful.
So Keagan, tell us, who is loan against the tax credit? Who does that?
Yeah, there are companies that just do it, like Bond It or 3 Point Capital. Blue Fox does it. So those are kind of the big players in the space. They're going to charge you an arm and a leg. I mean, 20 or 25%. So that's a ton of money. What we've also found is like some of our private equity investors are willing to do it at a much more competitive rate because they are already into the movie and they're an individual. So it's kind of easier to go through that process. And I think that's worked really well for us because that brings the fees down. That also gives your investor a safe piece to be involved in. Like they are going to get that money back. So you're kind of offsetting their risk of the equity investment.
The state of New Mexico is also revamping their loan program that they've had in place for a long time, but it's already part of the legislature in the New Mexico Film Program. So they're revamping that entire program currently, and we'll have details on it probably by next year. So
we love to hear that. Any way you guys can support that is super duper helpful. So that's like a third of your budget, which is huge with the tax incentive and hopefully the film loan fund. But another way to do it is to understand that there's two different kinds of investors. There's investors who are going to be aligning with your story. So if you have a true story that's based on like a local hero, go to that town, have an event, celebrate that person, let them know, hey, we want to get their story out. We really want people to understand why you love this person as much as we do. Gain friends, gain fans, and then take people out to coffee. It's really relationship building is a lot of the investor work that I do. And then there's also, we're doing a slate format for Inspirato. So the way you would diversify when you invest in loans and funds, you diversify because one of them will hit. Maybe they're not all your cup of tea, but one of them will hit. But that means we have to do the math. That means we have to be really smart and we have to know what our possible return on investment is. We have to understand what the market looks like. If we make a film for $3 million, how much do we have to sell it for to break even? It's not $3 million. You've accrued much more money than that. So I would say getting line producers on at the top is really important to know, A, how much can I make this for? The second piece of the puzzle is to do your market research. And there are lots of places that do it. Gorilla Rep did it for me for a project I'd had. They look at trends. What's selling right now? What's hot? What are people watching? Is that going to be in 3 years when you finish your movie, hopefully? More like 5. But you have to have confidence. And knowledge is confidence. You cannot go to any meeting and ask for money if you don't know exactly what you're selling and how much it's going to cost. So I would say the private investors are twofold. Like people, sometimes a story will sell people on it and they'll want to invest it because they love the story. Otherwise, it's business. So make it a good business.
Let me ask you this, because the common knowledge for years has been attachments. You know, you have to have this cast attached and all that. But then I talked to somebody that does a lot of producing from Netflix, and he's like, attachments mean nothing right now. What's your perspective on that?
I was surprised. Some attachments aren't a big deal. When you're like, but I know that person, I've seen everything they've been in. So each actor has like a price point, and those price points are going down. I think now you have to have some kind of good attachment, but you have to have a really killer idea or a great script.
Yeah, I just was going to build on the cast can be very important and overseas deals and stuff like that based on your cast. But not necessarily. And again, and the networks have broken this down very, very much so, in that, especially Netflix, Amazon, Apple will cast the best actor, and they don't necessarily need a name attached to a project in order to sell it. And they really love finding new talent, and especially diversified new talent is huge. So,
Todd, anything from your perspective on that?
I defer to Kelsey. I told this story the other day. There was a project. It's not necessarily all about cast either, because the first project, a friend of mine, he's a director, and he had Michelle Williams, Ty Sheridan, and Christoph Waltz attached to it, and it was in 2015. And I was like, "This is a slam dunk. I'm gonna put my own money into this." And in 2016, and the story was about D.W. Griffith and how the film industry had kind of passed him by. And I don't know if you know about D.W. Griffith, but he did Birth of a Nation, which is considered one of the one of the worst films ever made, or one of the, as far as filmmaking goes, D.W. Griffith created a lot of how we shoot today. And that's the story that I read, and the industry passed him by. But then 2016 happened, and we were like, F that guy. I'm not gonna do anything with about D.W. Griffith. So even if you have cast attached, just know, it's not a guarantee. Make sure your story is timely, and that would be my only thought. Nothing's guaranteed.
Cool. Yeah, there's no magic bullet or no secret potion to it, and every film's different, and some are more concept driven, let's call it, and some are more star driven. But the independent producers can not really most of the time afford the star driven projects, unless, Keagan, how did you get J.K. Simmons to do Little Brother for under $1 million? And tell us the brutal truth.
It's actually a really wild story and a stroke of luck, to be frank. I was at the Las Cruces Film Festival, and I watched a documentary that my friend had made that was in the festival, and J.K. Simmons was in the documentary, playing himself, just briefly. So I was like, oh, that's cool. My friend knows J.K. Simmons. I love J.K. He needs pictures of Spider-Man. But that day I was on Facebook, and I saw J.K. was raising money for suicide awareness with his brother. And that was crazy, because the plot of the movie I was making was about brothers going on a road trip talking about suicide. And those dots kind of connected, and I was able to ask my friend to kindly pass the script along, and he did, which was really nice of him. And then JK didn't respond for a year. And every 2 months I would just follow up and follow up and follow up. And eventually he was like, hey, sorry I haven't gotten back to you. I've been busy, but I'm going to give this script the read it deserves. He read it and came back and said he would do the role. And he worked MFN with all the other cast who were amazing actors, but don't.
You guys know what MFN means?
Yeah, MFN meaning everyone's working for the same amount, which is a common way to do it in a really indie setting. It's helpful. But here's a cautionary tale about JK. He didn't make the sales process easy. He's this big star, Academy Award winner. He got nominated for another Academy Award while we were selling the film. So I was like, fuck yeah, home run. But that's not how it was. So unless you have Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or Charlize Theron, I think don't expect that a star is going to sell your movie.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. But the other secret was, too, though, you figured out how to do him in his own home or area, and separately from the rest of you didn't have to travel him, and kind of went to him and did it in very few, one day? Yeah.
JK was like, I'll do it, but I'm not fucking leaving New York. So we're like, no problem. We'll be right over. Yeah, we went and did his role in one day in New Jersey, just across the river. And, making it convenient for them makes it a lot more likely that you're going to get a bigger name.
Yeah, I was going to say the bigger the stars, the bigger problems. So, and that's kind of a good story of that. I mean, lots of times people will be able to detach a pretty big name actor and we will have 1 or 2 days to film with them. We'll have to redo our entire schedule in order to film in just those couple days. And maybe they have scenes with other pretty big actors who also only want to film 1 or 2 days. So, that becomes the puzzle that we're trying to put together. Also, bigger actors often require more things. So maybe they want their own hair and makeup team. They're probably going to want a certain type of trailer on set. And this isn't for sure. I mean, I've definitely had fairly big actors go into the honey wagon with everybody else and be totally happy to be on set and help in any way they possibly can. Actors are part of the team, and they are there to perform and to participate in their craft as well. And so oftentimes you can sell people on that. You can sell them on a story that they're interested in telling, something that they're passionate about, or maybe they live close to where you're filming. Like when we were filming in Texas, we got some actors that were pretty big that just happened to sort of live close, and they were happy to come out and do it as part of their community of filmmaking. So, there's lots that goes into the casting process and what can be beneficial in all sorts of ways and what can be sort of a detriment to other parts of your film. It's hard to put a pretty big cast member into a single trailer that needs its own driver when you're trying to just find enough money to dress your sets and, have the manpower to move everything else around. So, part of my job is to work with the rest of our producing team to decide what is the best way to spend our money. And sometimes it is on a big cast member, and sometimes it's not. So,
Well said. I'm going to switch gears because we only have time for maybe 1 or 2 more panel questions, and we'll open it up. But one of the topics that we were supposed to address here, and we should, because that's what we're all here for, is how do we create Albuquerque, an indie scene here, like some other major places have, like Austin or New York or Los Angeles. So those are bigger cities, but we're aspiring to be a scene, an indie scene. So what does that take, and how do we get there? We have the ability to be that, but in my estimation, I don't think we're quite there yet. I think what are the things that we need to improve upon, or perhaps entice to come here and or build it up from the ground?
hi. Yeah, I mean, I've been working here for a long time, and I've worked in a lot of different departments and different positions. I did a lot of work as the director of photography on films when I first started out. And so part of how we do this is including everybody in our filmmaking community. And there are camera operators that want to be DPs. There's people that want to move up in their craft. And so being part of an indie scene allows for all of those things to happen. And especially there's been a big move with our SAG cast members that are in New Mexico wanting to have the same opportunities that are offered in other places. And I think by making local films and by creating an indie scene, we help to support them, and in turn they're going to support us. And so by leaning on our community and asking our community for favors, we're not just taking and not giving back. You take those favors. Seriously, Grippage offers you a lighting package. You have to give that back in some sort of way. So when you make it big, you got to hire them. No, but that's how it is, and it's a cyclical process. Right now, when we have, I think, 3 projects currently filming and none in pre-production in this like higher sort of network level or indie level. One of those is an indie film. These are the times when we can come together as a community and work together to create the projects and help make our fellow filmmakers have their projects be successful and get those out there. So this is a good time to ask people to come out and do favors for you and try and put together enough money for food and gas and make that happen. Yeah.
And insurance. Yes, and help people get better. When I came up, it felt like a lot of people, you got to practice. Practice gets you better. Nobody in this room is an A-level pro. You're just not yet. And that's not a judgment.
Wait, I am. Come on.
Oh, yes, you are, but you're the moderator. But do you know what I mean? Everybody can get better at something in the process. And the ask is what you all have to get comfortable doing. We also have to get better about saying, I have a project. I think it's worthy of your time. I'm going to ask you for a cup of coffee. You're not going to bombard me with like, do it right now, do this thing. Sit down with people. See the people that you align with. Because a crew that works really well together is just invaluable on the indie scale. You have to have people you know you can trust and rely on. And knowing that one costume designer is great for these kind of shows, and then the other one is great for these kind of shows. Not that one is better than the other. You're just recognizing people's skills and talent, and helping people get better. Don't bogart information. I've had people who were like, like 15 years ago, I was doing my first line item budget or like my first big budget, and it was like nobody would help me out because they were scared. They were scared that I was trying to take something from them. That's just not true. Nobody's taking anything from you. If we help each other get better, I really, really do think we'll get more than 3 projects here.
Yeah, our community just gets bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't get tighter. We don't push people to the outside. So.
Yeah, and Texas is going to have money coming into their state to take film. If we don't support the filmmakers that are here, they will leave. So that's the other thing too. As a producer, my job is to keep people here, to keep good people here working, feeling seen, feeling valued, and feeling heard.
Ask questions. I feel like there's no such thing as a dumb question. I know that's such a cliche to say, but like I ask really stupid questions, and I'll email Brent, and I'll be like, "Hey, Brent, do you have a budget, like a $3 million budget template that I could look at? Because that has all the fringes for all the unions and stuff. Like, don't be afraid to ask. Like, we're all on the same team. I hope." And then I would encourage everybody to work on a locations team as a locations PA, because you get to work with every department. You get to see everything up close. You have to scrub toilets. There's no, you're the grunt of the show, but you get to see the circus and what it takes and the interdepartment drama that happens, and just kind of listening and just take notes, because it's a good way to come up for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. We all come to producing through different avenues. I was kind of lucky because I got a job out of college in a producer's office. But I didn't learn all of that stuff, like scrubbing toilets, thankfully. Until later, I had to learn more of that as I did more independent film work. But I think that's the struggle is part of it, and the more you can relate to everybody you're hiring to do these jobs, and the more you know about their jobs, the better you are at empathizing with their issues and understanding them. So I guess I want to ask one more question, and then we'll open it up. I personally am very fascinated by the developments in technology and AI specifically. Where is that leading us in real life filmmaking? Nobody really knows, but I know it's coming fast, and I've seen some of the early trials that people scoff at and mock, but it's getting pretty darn good fast. Where do you think the industry's headed with the new technologies that are coming online really quickly? And how does that affect independent filmmaking, I guess?
I think it makes things more available for independent filmmakers. A friend of mine started a company called Wonder Dynamics, and it's for independent filmmakers. I could shoot this panel here, and I could take the clip of this shot, and then I could throw an avatar over Kelsey and turn her into a robot. I could turn him into Bigfoot. I could turn Melanie into something else. And the AI, can track all their emotions, can track all their facial recognition. And I think it's going to make things more accessible for independent filmmakers. And I know there's other horrible instances for writers that, because you can throw scripts into AI and say, punch this up, and then revise the punch-ups. I find AI quite useful in creative writing. If I have an idea, I just throw it in ChatGPT, and it'll give me something, and I'll revise it. And I think it just makes everything a little bit more accessible for independent filmmakers. Check out Wonder Dynamics.
AI is really interesting and honestly kind of scary for me. I have seen applications of it that are useful to filmmakers. I think it'll change VFX in a lot of ways. I think for things like writing pitch decks, it can be useful. I would also be very careful with that because at a certain point, all of your pitch decks start sounding the same. But honestly, when it comes to like generative AI, when you see characters on the screen that are purely generated by computers, I think it can feel really soulless. I think that we're in an industry where you're trying to gain empathy from your audience. You're showing them how a character feels at any given time, whether that's comedy or horror or whatever. It's the actor's face that's really communicating the story. And generative AI, from what I've seen so far, kind of takes that human connection out of it. And I really hope that the industry finds a way to use AI as an effective tool, similar to when we got the digital camera or something like that. But I hope that our audiences don't demand purely generative AI content. I think that's when we'll see our medium really kind of die in the way that attracted us all to this career path.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the same point, that this is a tool that we're going to have to harness and learn how to use. And we're at the beginning stages of that. I also think that there's a world where we could have no bad movies anymore. Like, it's hard to imagine that some giant action hero sort of movie comes out and it's bad. And I'm like, oh, there's got to be an easy way to fix that. And I feel like the writers are going to hate me, but the AI, that we should see no bad movies anymore. But also, that takes a lot of the heart out of filmmaking. Oh.
Yeah, AI is not going away, I think, is the other kind of like realistic thought. So how do you harness it, and how do you use it to propel yourself in an authentic direction? Because authenticity is why we watch movies. We want to see ourselves in that. I don't know that AI is going to ever get to that level because it's information. AI is just information. It's not emotion. It's perceived emotion, but it's not real emotion. So I have great faith that like the human authenticity factor can never be duplicated through AI because it's just information. And information is not people. I'm a professor at Art Center College in Pasadena, and I can tell right away when it's written in AI. And they all sound the same. And so then I go to my class and I say, you are different than you. Why is the paper the same? This is not a class. I teach thinking critically about film. I was like, it's all about your experience of it. I know it's AI. And I think we're going to know it's AI when it's a movie with an actor created by AI. I just have to believe that. But it's not going away, so use the tools. Use the tools to make your job easier. It will help independent filmmakers break down a script, get a prop list. You're still going to have to double check it, but think about how many hours you spend creating a budget and a prop list and a set deck. Like, it can save on time, which saves money, which is the biggest hurdle for indie film.
Yeah, I see that, but I'm kind of old, and I'm embracing some of it, but I will not go to ChatGPT. I have not gone to ChatGPT for anything except to make a protest poster about Elon Musk wearing a hockey mask. But I don't want to do that because for me, it's being in the weeds and learning by hand how to write and cursively write and do things that we carry the decimal and math and stuff that we did in the dark ages of the last century. We were in the weeds, and you learned by being in the weeds. And now, if we skip that step and go, hey, computer, tell me how to do this, are we going to still be as facile as doing things the old-fashioned way? I don't want to be old-fashioned about it, and I want to embrace it, but I also feel like there is benefit in doing the hard work.
Well, AFMX this year is an acquisition festival. We have been signed by Disrupt Entertainment. So, thank you. So, bigger congratulations to all the narrative feature films that were selected this year, because they all have a guaranteed offer from Ben Yenny on the table. They don't have to take it, but they got at least one. Tell your friends, because our submission period for 2026 will open in December of this year. All selected feature narrative films have a distribution deal at AFMX. Let's everybody give a great big round of applause for our panel today. Brent, Todd, Kelsey, Keagan. Melanie. I wanted to say Monica all the time. Poor Melanie.